technologies. We still have to turn it on.
Okay, so we're started.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the Brown County Housing Authority to order, 3:30 p.m. Can we please start with introductions? We have some guests and some new folks. So I'm Corday Goddard, I'm the chair.
Ann Hartman, member.
John Fenner, Commissioner.
Supervisor Nicholson is running late, he'll be here shortly.
And Tom Dietrich also called and said he was running late.
Cheryl Renyer-Wig, Executive Director.
Patrick Lecter with Integrated Community Solutions.
Matt Roberts with Integrated Community Solutions.
Jake Dittman, Board of Directors with Integrated Community Solutions.
Stephanie Schmutzer, accountant for the BCJ. Robin Hallett,
Can I have
housing
it?
administrator for the Green Bay Brown County Housing Authority.
All right, thank you.
I'm Tara Hansen. I'm the loan processor over at NeighborWorks Green Bay.
Jeff Van Renz, Housing Counselor at NeighborWorks Green Bay.
Thank you for being here. All right, are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes from July 16th, 2018? If not, can I get a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Appears there are no communications. Reports.
In the month of July, we collected 141 preliminary applications. There was a unit count of 2,837 with an associated housing assistance payment expense of $1,294,873. We conducted 361 total inspections in July, of which 175 passed their initial inspection, 58 passed the re-inspection, 104 failed, and 24 resulted in a no-show. On the colorful handout that is at everyone's station, we had, for the month of July, 350 port-outs with an associated housing assistance payment expense of $323,954. ICS corporate was underspent by $10,900.23. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program was underspent by $100.75. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program had 69 active participants on the program, of which 45 are in level 1, 15 in level 2, 2 are in level 3, and 7 in level 4. In July, we had 6 new contracts, 0 graduates. Currently, there are 35 open escrow accounts and 44 active homeowners. There were 0 new VASH clients in July and 29 active VASH clients. The Langen Associates report for July, there was 1 new investigation open, 18 remain active, and 1 was closed. There were 278 applications processed, of which 277 were approved, 1 was denied. This is a breakdown of the initial applications by municipality. So there were the vast majority within Green Bay, which is that large orange section. Howard is the green section, which was 4%, I believe, and then De Pere had 3% in the purple area. This is a breakdown of our fraud investigations by municipality. Again, Green Bay is in the orange, Oneida is the dark purple, and De Pere is the lighter color.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, whatever.
Sorry, I'm late. Glad you're here. Good. All right. There is no old business, thank you. There is no old business. New business, item number 3. Consideration of possible action to amend Chapter 4, the waiting list and tenant selection of the administrative plan to provide a move-on strategy preference.
Actually, Chairman, if I could suggest that we maybe skip ahead to some of the other agenda items, because we did have another person, a guest, who was planning to come to this meeting, and she emailed me that she was running a little late.
Okay.
So,
All right, is there, should we move on to number 4? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll come back to item number 3. Item number 4, consideration of possible action on approval of homebuyer assistance program funding proposal from NeighborWorks Green Bay.
So as the cover letter, or the cover sheet in your packet explained, last year NeighborWorks requested a grant to continue to fund their homebuyer homebuyer assistance program. And they are making a request for additional funding. And they have provided in your packet a funding proposal. And they have also provided, which is a handout, a map showing the locations of the home purchases made through this program thus far. And we have Tara and Jeff here from NeighborWorks to answer any questions you might have or provide any additional information. Essentially, they're asking for another $150,000, which is the request that was made last year. They were originally requesting $300,000 last year, but we had only put $150,000 into the budget. So they're now coming forward asking for an additional $150,000.
But the way that our budget works is that the money does not carry over. So technically there is $150,000 in the 2018 budget. So it's just the amount that they didn't spend in 2017 does not carry over, unlike what they were used to with the community development block grant money. It would carry over from year to year, so they would get $150,000, they would have to spend it all and then get the next. That is not how ours works. So they do have $150,000 in the 2018 year, which they have not spent all of that.
Okay.
So this really would be if you wanted to increase that budget amount or have it put in for the 2019 year.
And perhaps Tara or Jeff could speak to this more, but Scott had emailed me prior to the meeting and said that they have several of their homeowners lined up, I believe, and they anticipate using the rest of the funding before the end of this year. So they are requesting the funding to start earlier than when our fiscal year would start so that they can continue the program seamlessly without having to stop it and then start it again later.
And Stephanie, it sounds like that doesn't do anything negative to our cash flow or anything.
No, this is money that is, it's unrestricted, but yet we always set it aside. It would just be something that we would go over in a budget area, and it would be something that if you guys approved to go over in that budget area, that way it's just noted for our audit too.
What questions do you have?
I read the packet, I didn't have any questions. Looks good to me.
There have been no changes since last year, really? Yes, I thought, okay.
I would entertain a motion to accept this item.
I will make that motion to accept.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. All right.
Can I ask for clarity? So you are approving additional money to be spent in this fiscal year, and then essentially the remainder of it would be budgeted in next year's? Is that what we're?
If that's what the board wants, then yes. So I can, once they have spent the whole $150,000 in this year, we can look at what they have spend over, and then I can put the remainder of that but $150 into the following year's budget, so that they have it done.
So we've just authorized an additional $150,000, and you would disperse that as you need to.
As needed at the end of the
In
year,
this
and
segment,
then.
this fiscal year and next fiscal year if you need to. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess
Spend it
hazard
wisely.
waste. What was that, Don?
Spend it wisely.
All right, I'd like to go back to item number 3. Our guest has arrived. Item number 3, again, is consideration of possible action to amend Chapter 4, the waiting list and tenant selection of the administrative plan to provide a move-on strategy preference.
So we actually have 2 guests. One is by phone. Carrie Poser is with us by phone. She is the executive director for the Balance of State. Carrie, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you. And then Debbie Bushman is here from New Cap.
Thank you for being here.
So they can provide any input or answer any questions. But essentially, as the cover sheet for this item explains, there's a new initiative that HUD is taking to encourage participants of permanent supportive housing, which permanent supportive housing has two main components to it. One is a rental assistance subsidy, and the other is intensive case management services. When participants in that program get to the point that they no longer need the intensive case management services, they may still be in a position that they need a rental housing subsidy. So this initiative from HUD is to encourage housing authorities who have either the Housing Choice Voucher or the Public Housing Program to be able to provide some kind of a preference to those individuals, to be able to provide them some housing subsidy in order that they may continue seamlessly their assistance moving from the permanent supportive housing into another housing assistance program. Here in Brown County, the only current recipient of this permanent supportive housing funding is New Cap. And Debbie can explain, how the permanent supportive housing program works if you would like, and how she foresees, the movement of clients from that program to the Housing Choice Voucher program to work. So would you like to open the floor to hear?
Motion to open the floor for interested parties.
Second.
All right.
Well, I think Robin did a pretty good job of explaining the way the program works. So we have 45 slots in Brown County to help individuals that are chronically homeless, which means they've been on the streets or for 12 months, continuous months, or 4 times in the last 3 years. In order for them to qualify, they have to have some sort of disability. Currently, the program started January 1st of 2017, and we already have a few people who could move on and out of the program that don't need the weekly or even daily case management that's offered with the program. So with the move-on vouchers, they could either stay where they are and transition in place with that voucher, or we could help them find a different unit to use their voucher in. And then we would offer some type of continuous case managements for 6 months or something once they're off the program. We just wouldn't move them out and leave them hanging.
So this is really the way it's supposed to work, right? That we
Exactly.
help get folks able to live independently and to move in that direction. with
Absolutely.
Solid case management. We get them to a place where they're able to be independent, which is what we want. Okay.
So we would have some criteria that they would have to meet, whatever that might be, employed for so long, like always keeping their appointments, those sort of things before we feel that they're ready to move on as well.
Why would they have to leave where they are?
Well, they don't necessarily have to leave where they are because it's scattered site. They could use their voucher and transition from the permanent supportive housing program in place and stay right where they are and just use their voucher. It's just what some individuals at some point reach a point where they don't need our intensive case management anymore, but they still do need that rental subsidy because they're on SSI or SSDI.
But they don't necessarily have to leave where they are?
They do not.
Okay.
What other questions do you have?
I have a question. Where's the $150,000 coming from? Brown County Housing Authority?
I think the 150,000 is in reference to the previous agenda item.
We're on item number 3.
Oh, we're on 3?
Yep.
Right.
We skipped the 4 we did.
Skipped 4 because she was late, so.
Yep.
So we're at 3. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. All right, disregard.
Carrie, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, Robin, I would say you did a really good job kind of introing what it's for. And I'm sorry I forgot the gentleman's name that mentioned this is how this is supposed to work. In essence, you're absolutely right that Green Bay and Brown County is one of the largest communities with the most people experiencing chronic homelessness, which is the project that Debbie and New Cap specifically are targeting. And what oftentimes happens is that we fill up a project and then they can't go anywhere, even if they no longer need the intensive case management because there's no place for them to go, but they've been hooked up to Social Security or or whatever other funding benefits available to them, that they're not going to be able to pay market rent, and they're going to continue to need a subsidy. So this kind of removes that kind of clamp on the system where the folks that are ready to go can go, and then UCAP and that project can work with the next group of people that are sleeping outside or sleeping in shelters for an extended period of time. So the whole idea is it doesn't create a bottleneck, it provides flow. The units that UCAP has participants in right now have all done HQS. So the same inspection that the Housing Authority would have to do has already been done. You know, all of the paperwork, so to speak, that the Housing Authority would need for someone, NewCap would have already collected. So I mean, some of those pieces of that will have already been done to make it easier to transition, you know, the participant from one program to the other. By the time they get to this place, generally, you know, they're not really meeting with a case manager anymore, or they're just touching base. It wouldn't be any different than when they're on Section 8 the way it is, right? Where they have to pay their part of the rent, and they need to keep the unit habitable. I mean, that's kind of the deal. So I think it's an absolute fantastic thing that Brown County is willing to do this and consider this. Really would make you the first, you'd be the second county in the balanced state, at least of 69 of the other counties, to do this. So I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes,
Question.
Supervisor Nicholson.
Why is there so much homelessness in Brown County?
That's a big, big
Because, I mean,
question.
unemployment is very, very low at this time. Why is there?
Say
Well,
everyone.
actually, I could.
Yeah, Carrie, if you'd
Well,
like
I can't.
to.
I can't answer that like in 5 seconds or less. I can say that up until Debbie's project, the New Cat project started, there was no systematic way to provide housing or resources to the people that were the longest time homeless. There just wasn't any housing program for them, period. And it has been a challenge over the last, I would say, since I've been doing this for 5 years, to get somebody to do this kind of programming in Brown County. So once NewCap came in and was able to offer it, we have seen not quite the dip that we were hoping, but certainly a step in the right direction to be able to house the people. Because you guys have a lot of shelters, but shelters don't provide housing. So you have programs targeted to youth, but that's not the general homeless population. So from an outside perspective, you lacked the ability to get people connected to permanent housing other than Section 8 or public housing and some limited programming for some very specific targeted populations, not for the people that were absolutely homeless the longest, meaning over a year, homeless on the street or in shelter.
And I
That's
can,
my fast answer.
thank you, Carrie. A little bit more information I'd like to add to that, especially in regards to your comment, Andy, about there being such a low unemployment rate, which is true. A lot of, and Debbie can probably attest to this, a lot of the families that we serve are either working or they maybe rely on Social Security or SSDI. So it's not always just the amount of income coming in, but it might be other barriers that they have. Mental illnesses is a big one, and they just need the help and the guidance, the case management that NewCap provides to help them be organized and to know how to apply for a housing unit, how to be a good renter, how to not have disputes with their landlord or with their neighbors, and to pay their rent on time, and just all these other
Multiple
things.
evictions on their record, which causes them to not be able to be housed again.
So Debbie, is it correct that your program is somewhat of a housing first approach?
It is, it is. So we meet people where they're at, house them first, and then all the other supportive services come after they're housed.
And how many do you have in the program right now?
We have 45 currently.
You have 45.
The prioritization list as of Friday was 53 eligible individuals on the prioritization list yet that would meet the criteria for our program.
That's in addition to the
That's
45.
in addition to the 45. So if we could have some vouchers to move people up and out of our program, then we'd be able to serve more individuals that are still homeless.
So you're only asking for 15?
5, actually, right?
Oh,
The 15 that you may be thinking of is that New Cap is applying for more HUD
We
funding.
did, we actually
Oh,
applied for 20 more.
20,
Because the
okay.
list went to 53,
So instead of the 45, you could be up to 60.
to 60.
If you're approved.
That's correct.
From that, which might be, when do you know? when?
27th of August, we're supposed to know, the applications were due Friday,
Oh.
and we're supposed to know by the 27th. So we'll know if we get the additional vouchers.
But this proposal would move potentially 5
A year
a year
that would qualify to move on.
out of your program into the
Yes.
Housing Choice Program.
Right. And
Potentially.
as an authority, you could decide if you wanted to limit it to just that 5, and if there are 6 that come available, then I guess that next one would have to wait until the next year type of situation. Or if you want to allow some flexibility to it, that's your decision.
What other questions are there?
I like the idea of a minimum of 5, but maybe have a window.
Okay.
5, maybe to 8.
5 to 8.
I don't know if having a minimum would be appropriate, because it could happen that there would be years that you don't have 5 people
That's
who are ready
correct.
to move on.
So
I
if you
think,
felt the need to establish a maximum.
That's what 5 was going to be the maximum number?
well, 5 is what they estimated.
Okay.
That might be ready to move on from.
Because we probably have 3 already that could just move on already. So, and how quickly others will be ready, you just never know.
All right, is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to, I guess, approve the 5 that you were looking for. Correct? Is that would be what you're looking for?
Right.
Okay, that'd be my motion.
5 per year, right, Robin?
Yes.
Yes.
Second?
Okay, 5 per year for how long?
Potentially. I mean, it could be
So
some.
5
years we
this
don't
year,
have
5
any.
next year, 5,
And there could be some years where we don't have any, you know, it
How-
would just
for
be
how
5
long?
available.
But once they're on the Housing Choice Voucher Program, there's no limit to how long they can receive their housing voucher assistance.
Well, but it's changing the preference. So it would permanently change that preference, is what you're referring to, I think.
Yes.
Supervisor Nicholson, is that it would change the preference in the plan, so then it would be up to 5 a year ongoing. Could be 0, could be 5.
So the overall number of vouchers doesn't really change, it's just
No.
that people in this program get some preference and would move in earlier.
Right. So to clarify that, the preferences are, as they currently stand, are on the page in your handout, immediately following the cover letter for number 3 or the cover sheet. So it explains that the first preference is for Brown County residents who have been involuntarily displaced by government action or natural disaster. Currently, our second preference on your sheet, it says 3rd, because this is a draft of what we're looking to change. Basically, we're looking to add the second preference to be for this program that we're talking about, the permanent supportive housing. Then what has been the second preference would be bumped down to the 3rd preference. That is Brown County residents who are elderly, disabled, veterans, or homeless.
So I know there's 2 preferences and you're going to...
No, it goes on, if you follow that sheet, that's the, what I'm proposing to be the 3rd. The
Are you
4th,
adding a preference then?
yes.
Okay.
We're adding the second preference,
That's
the one that's in
okay.
red.
So this preference would be for people in this program who are being supported by intensive case management until they get to the place where they are able to move on and live more independently.
So, Robin, am I thinking this correctly? This only would become an issue if we, like, were at our max capacity, that we wouldn't be, that, like, if somebody were on, if they had their 5 people that, and there was a 6th person that would hit preference 3, it would only be if we only had 5 vouchers available, would that other person not hit the preference, right? Their preference of the 3rd, if we were close on our
I guess-
max capacity.
I guess the way I look at it is that currently, if there's somebody who's elderly, for example, who applies, they would get the voucher. before a non-elderly person. But now with this change, if New Cap is referring somebody from their program, that person would get the voucher before this elderly applicant would.
And I guess the clarification would be in that situation that Stephanie referenced, NewCap can continue to refer them. We're talking about being placed on the waiting list. So it's not an immediate hand them a voucher when they pass somebody off to us. It's they get their name put on the waiting list in this preference that Robin has identified in the administrative.
Right now, do they wind up at the bottom of the waiting list?
Right now, if they were to apply, they would fit in wherever,
Whatever category.
according to if they have a disability, if they're elderly, they would fit in to whichever preference that they currently meet the qualifications for.
So basically, you're saying that rather than shoehorn them into someplace along the waiting list, you'd like to make them a separate entity, so to speak.
Yes.
So they get preference because they're participating in a program that sets them up to be successful.
Right, okay, I get it now. I think I'm finally starting.
Mr. Chairman, I want to withdraw my motion, please.
Okay. Is
I'll take
there,
my second back then, too.
okay, all right.
So then,
So those are taken off the table. Right, is there another motion to be made
I'll make the motion.
to accept?
Second preference as listed.
So second, a motion has been made to
okay.
accept the proposal as presented. Is there a second?
Okay, so right now, since I don't hear anybody saying, right now, if they are moved from this program, which is, I can't remember the initials anymore, if they're no longer needing the PSH program, they can go onto the waiting list in any one of 4 different ways. Okay, and the proposal here was to add a 5th way to get on the waiting list,
Essentially, yes.
essentially.
A quicker way.
A quicker way. And that's because they have been in housing and people are fairly certain that they're going to be successful. Right?
Yes, they're,
Okay,
they're no
okay.
longer in need of the intensive case management. They just need the subsidy to
They just need
remain
subsidy.
stable in their housing situation.
Okay. So they wouldn't get any case management except right at the beginning you said
Well, we could give it to them as long as they would need it afterwards. If they still needed us to check in once a month or whatever the case might be, we would still help them along. We weren't just gonna push them out.
Okay, all right. Okay. So what is your motion, Tom?
To add the second preference as listed.
Is there a second?
Are there any further questions that anybody has? May I ask what your hesitations are? What are the concerns
Well,
that you have?
If they already have 4 ways to get onto the list, why do they need a 5th one?
Either Debbie or Carrie care to address?
Sure, I can, this is Carrie. So, I mean, it depends on how you choose to word this. The example I will give you is in Eau Claire County, they are doing 10, and what they're calling it is 10 set-aside vouchers. So they took 10 of their vouchers, and they are setting them aside for this project. So they're not going on the waiting list per se, they are earmarked for these project exits. They have not done the 5 a year at this point because they haven't had this for a while and Eau Claire had this program longer, but then they're looking at what is the average exit now afterwards, and so do they need to add 2 more a year or whatever. The point is, folks that are in Debbie's Permanent Supportive Housing Project are not considered homeless anymore. So if you have them if one of your preferences is a homeless preference, technically, they aren't homeless anymore, they're in permanent housing. So if you have a way to get on the list because they're homeless, this is not gonna, these clients on Debbie's program will not get on this list for being homeless. If you have a preference for people that are disabled, you're right, they could technically get on the waiting list and wait with all the other disabled persons that are waiting on the list. The point of this was to earmark these particular clients who have been in the program anywhere from 6 months to a year, sometimes 5 years, who've done everything they need to do, and all they're going to need is a rent subsidy to open up a spot so that the guy sleeping outside for the last 2 years can get into Debbie's program and do all the things that the last person just managed to accomplish to change their life. That's the point of this voucher move-on system. Not to wait on a list for another year or something. I mean, that's not what the design was, at least not from HUD.
Okay, so if they're on the whatever this is, PSH program, when they're out of this, you have to throw them out of the housing?
No, it's permanent housing, so
No,
So-
Debbie could keep serving them until they die. I mean, technically, there's no time limit. So they could stay on the program, but she can't enroll anybody else, which is the bottleneck that I was talking about. If she fills all her units with tons of people that no longer need the case management, but only need a rent subsidy, and there's no place for them to go to get the rent subsidy, they stay on Debbie's program, which means there's nobody moving into Debbie's program.
Any other questions or thoughts? Anyone else want to share more about your reservations?
Well, did the motion fail?
It hasn't been voted on yet.
Yeah, there's no
Still
second.
waiting for a second.
We're
Still waiting for a second, I'm not sure if
Dan
Dan is not willing to offer a second or is still trying to think about it.
I'm still trying, so it doesn't, so basically what you're saying, as I understand it, is that there are all these people who can't get into the program because it is full. And if there is no way for them to get out of the program into some other voucher, they stay in the program, and the people who need to get in the program can't.
Exactly.
Correct. And what Debbie was saying is there's like 50 people waiting right now. And I would argue that in about 2 months, you're going to have people age into what's called aging into chronicity, which means that maybe they're not chronically homeless today, but in 2 months, if they continue to be homeless, they will become chronically homeless, and you will just keep increasing the number of people that are chronically homeless in your community, because there's no place for them to go after this.
And do you want to delay this and talk to him later, or?
Well, I don't know, I guess
We gotta-
I'm still kind of, flummoxed as to why we have so many homeless people here. But that's,
They can't answer that,
yeah.
so that's what I asked.
So, yeah, I guess I'd feel more comfortable delaying it just because I need to, I just don't, I'm having a hard time understanding what's going on, I guess, and so I need to read it again and think
So I-
about what you all said.
So the motion fails for lack of a second. I would entertain a motion to table this and put it on next month's agenda.
Motion to table for next month's agenda.
Is there a second?
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we will table this until next month. Sorry.
No, I interrupted you. Please excuse me, I have to leave.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week, everyone. Well, I got delayed.
Okay.
Okay.
So Carrie and Debbie, I guess that's all for now. We will have this on our agenda again next month, if you would both
do you know
like to.
what the date is?
The 28th.
The 24th.
Yes,
24th.
Sure.
I just want to say I'm going to have to abstain anyways.
Okay,
I won't vote on this.
all right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you both for coming.
Thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you.
Bye, Carrie.
Bye.
John, you want to say
Bye.
more about that?
Nope.
All right, item number 5, consideration of possible action regarding housing choice voucher home ownership counseling agreements with eligible agencies.
right, so again, as the cover sheet explains, we have had a contract for a long time with both NeighborWorks and with Catholic Charities to provide the homeownership counseling, which is a required component of the homeownership program within the HCB program. And the Catholic Charities agreement has a renewal clause that it needed to be renewed every year. And there really have not been any issues or concerns, so we took a look at changing that agreement to remove that renewal clause. And while we were doing that, we cleaned up some of the other wording within that agreement. In your packet, you can see the redlined one, which is a little difficult to read, so at your table, there is a clean version that might be a little easier to read. Essentially, the wording, it has some changes in wording, but the essence is essentially the same, with the exception of removing the expiration on the Catholic Charities version.
So the essence of the program is the same, we just have removed the need to annually reapprove it.
That's right.
What questions do you all have?
I like the clean copy.
Yeah. And I provided the red line version so you could see the changes that were made.
This doesn't say anything that I can see about NeighborWorks. Do they do a
This
different type
is
of
the
count?
one that's for Catholic Charities. The NeighborWorks one is identical, except removing the name Catholic Charities and replacing it with NeighborWorks Green Bay.
Oh, okay, so there's two of them. Okay, all right, now I understand.
That was
makes
part of the
sense.
issue, is that there were two essentially
Yeah.
identical programs, agreements, but
Right.
one required the annual renew.
And the other did not. Yes, okay, I got it now. All right.
All right, is there a motion to be made?
Second.
Motion to approve this as presented has been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. All right, item number 6, under bills and financial report, consideration of possible action on acceptance of BCHA bills.
They were at your table.
Nothing really exciting, maybe?
I would accept the motion to accept and place on file.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Item number 7, consideration of possible action on acceptance of the BCHA financial report.
What do we need to know? Stephanie?
What do we need to know? We're in pretty good standing right now. We, like our fraud recovery, we've captured more than we needed for our budget, which is always nice. And we do have a couple of people who have set up the payment agreements and are making them, so that's always nice.
Oh, that is good. So what happens to the extra money?
It just goes into our budget. I just budget that we'll at least capture this money.
Oh, I see.
I'm always happy when people do the right thing on their own instead of making me be mean.
And so we don't earmark that money for anything in particular, it just goes back into.
It just goes back in, okay, all right. But if you didn't catch as much as you had budgeted, then we'd have to cut things?
Well, hopefully, we'd be able to cut in certain areas, like, maybe not do such a big program if, something with this or that, but generally speaking, we usually always have captured more. I'm very conservative on my estimates on that for that reason. I would hate to have to not do something because we didn't capture enough.
And I think the bigger concern is the fraud recovery efforts, keep people accountable.
Yeah,
To,
that's what we want. Okay. All right.
All right, any more questions? I would accept a motion to accept and place on file.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, under administrative support and informational. Updates on the Brown County Homeless and Housing Coalition.
So I want to occasionally bring to your attention things that are happening as part of within the coalition so that you can kind of see the state of housing and homelessness in the community. As I've talked about before, the Brown County Housing Authority is a member of the Brown County Homeless and Housing Coalition, which is a local coalition of the Balance of State, of which Carrie Poser, who was on the phone with us, is the executive director. So you can kind of see we start as just ourselves. We're part of a larger coalition, which is part of a larger statewide coalition, which is funded by HUD. So it's all interrelated. And this month, one of the things that really prompted me to want to bring this to your attention is something that I think is really going to be a game changer for our local coalition. For the first time in their history, they received funding to directly hire staff. So the coalition is going to be hiring 2 part-time staff, one as a leadership position and one as a coordinated entry specialist. And that's going to be a big change because it means that the people in those positions are really going to be able to focus on homelessness and housing issues in our area, whereas currently it's individuals such as myself and Debbie and other people who are working in the housing profession who are essentially volunteering their time or their agency's time to being part of that coalition. And they can't always focus the time and energy to the coalition as they would like to. So this is really going to be able to help put more information out into the community about the issues of homelessness, and hopefully then be able to answer some of the questions that Andy and Ann raised earlier about why is there homelessness in this area, and even better, what can be done, what can I do about it to help alleviate that problem for so many families.
So are they going to be employees of the coalition?
That's right.
Okay. So they're not going to be employed by any one entity, they'll just be employed,
Right. Yeah.
And is this going to be is this just a 1-year thing?
No, both of the grants, I believe, are 3 years.
3 years.
Plus they are, making strategic efforts to determine how they're going to proceed with that funding in the future after those
so they're going to
grants
try and
expire.
continue it. All right.
Do we know where the grants came from?
I think one is from HUD through the Balance of State. I believe that one is the coordinated entry specialist, and the other one is the Green Bay area, Green Bay Community Foundations.
Okay.
All right, are there other questions or comments? All right, there's no action required. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, our next meeting, item number 9, is on September 24th, 2018.
Okay, are we back up here now all the time?
Yes, we will be up here.
All right.
So I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
I believe.